Welcome to the 7th edition of the International Festival of Media, hosted and curated by the Faculty of Journalism and Creative Studies, Jagadeesh Lakecity University. I am Ritik, Khare, and I'm in conversation with Mr. Deep Haldar. Mr. Deep Haldar is a writer and an acclaimed journalist. He has written books like Blood Island and Bengal 2021 and Election Diary, and he is currently a contributing editor at The Print. Hello, sir. Welcome, sir.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sir, to kick things off, what do you think about the current state of Indian journalism in the our political paradigm, and where do you think we are hurtling towards?
It's a very expansive question. I don't know if I can satisfactorily answer it, but I think it's a very interesting landscape because there are a lot of changes that are happening. When I started my journalism, social media was not so prevalent. Now mainstream media, quote unquote mainstream media, is constantly being censored by social media. There are a lot of independent journalists, podcasters who are in the horizon, and so it's a very challenging space and time to be a journalist. So yeah, I think today's political paradigm, I think well, that depends. But I still think that what mainstream media cannot say or show, I think on social media those things are said by independent podcasters, by independent journalists, YouTubers. So I think it's pretty interesting. It's more interesting definitely than when I began.
So you've been covering Bangladesh for a considerable while now. What do you think are some lessons or pitfalls that India can learn from the political setup in Bangladesh?
I think our democracy is more robust than Bangladesh. But I think one of the things that India can definitely look at is how the Bangladesh changed its image. You should think of it as not a very solvent economy and a poorer cousin maybe of India. But over the past few years under Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh has really come up in terms of its GDP, in terms of how in terms of their garment export though was always a plus, but I think the way there's also a thrust in infrastructure development, in taking the country forward. I think that's something India is doing, all of that, but I think that's something to admirably look at from our neighbor.
Sir, in the concluding passage of your book, in the concluding passage of the foreword of your book, Bengal and Election Diary, you said that you go out of the spaces that breed closed minds, and you try to talk to as many diverse voices as you can. So how do you go about choosing these voices?
I think it's a personal opinion, but I think it really helps. For instance, if there is a journalist or a thinker or a podcaster I do not agree with, whose views I feel I do not agree with, I make it a point to watch that person, okay? So that unless it's bordering on filthy language, abuse and all of that, if it's logically said, then I make it a point to listen to people I don't agree with. I think what it does is two things. It broadens your horizon. Also, it makes your own arguments for what you believe in sharper, right? So I think it's always a good thing to sort of to have this duality in your mind, where you put in two very contrasting ideas in one place at the same time. So I think you come out sharper, smarter, more focused in the process. Initially you may feel that, okay, why am I toying with two opposite ideas? But eventually I think you only gain from the process.
Sir, as your book An Election Diary unfolds, you talk to people of like a myriad of different political ideologies and political beliefs. So do you think a journalist should editorialize these things, or should just is it more ethical to just let people decide on themselves?
Okay. I'm sure as a journalism student you must have heard of the word objectivity several times from your teachers. What I believe in after 21 years in the field is, objectivity is a nice word to say and write, but it's very difficult. Because no one's objective. A journalist is also a voter. Most often, perhaps always, a journalist also goes out to vote. So who does he or she vote for? A political party, right? A journalist believes in the political ideology of that party or the policies that party espouses. So to be objective, really objective, is very difficult, but a journalist can be fair. So I think when you speak to a myriad voices, I think you are just being fair, right? You are not just thrusting your own opinion on readers or viewers or listeners by speaking to people who say pretty much the same thing that you want to say. So when you speak to a lot of people, you make the experience of the consumer of your news more varied and more fair. So I think you should try not to editorialize. Like you said, you are a newspaper journalist, right? There is only one edit page in the paper. The rest of the page is all news. So why? So just give out news as fairly as you can. I mean, see, it will always creep in what your thoughts are. In some way, unless you are writing about an accident, it will always creep in. If you're writing a political copy, somewhere in some sentence, in some turn of phrase, what you believe in will come in. But you can be fair by speaking to a lot of people also who you do not agree with.
Sir, in a recent article you wrote, you challenged the opinion of Anurag Kashyap, where he said Bengali cinema is ghatiya. So, how important do you think cinema and the arts are for a regional or cultural identity? And can they help in documenting and observing that particular identity?
Yeah, it's very, very, very. Look at Kantara. I mean, can you imagine a movie which is based in which is shot in a village, okay, and it has a buffalo race, and it has a cultural tradition that much of the rest of India is not aware of. It's made at a very tight budget, and it goes on to make some 500, 550, 600 crores. It's fantastic that people from other regions, other languages, other cultures, religions, they have taken onto the movie so much, right? So I think regional is the new global. So you have to be authentic, because there's so much of content out there. Everybody is a content creator. Okay, your house help is also a content creator. Your driver is doing a little reel. Okay. So and you don't know what will succeed, what will not. So I think if you can be authentic by going back to your roots, that's a good thing.
So your book Blood Island explores immigration through a prism of caste, religion and politics. So how do you think journalists should approach a subject like immigration, and should they have a particular standpoint or stance on it?
I think first they should read up. It's again a very expansive this thing. It's a concept. Migration and illegal immigration, and what makes somebody a refugee, what makes the same person an immigrant. I think what you should do is read up as much as you can before you go on to write. And even when you go on to write, before you put out your own thoughts, please speak to people who bear the brunt of such experience. Please speak to refugees, immigrants, explore spaces where they stay, often in very poor conditions, before you put out your thought. Because it's one thing to say that people should not come in from another country to this country. It's quite another to go and live like that. I mean, people don't do it most often out of choice, but out of compulsion. So I think before you put out your own view, you should read, you should observe, and then write.
As Sir said, you should read and explore as much as you can. Thank you for joining us,
Thank
sir. And as Mr. Deep Haldar said, read as much as you can and try to empathize through your readings. Stay tuned and keep watching Lakecity Live.